Alright guys, so I'm still testing the setup in my room right now, trying something a little bit different. Last video I was filming at my desk, but now I'm kind of just sitting on my bed. Just trying a few things out. Let me know what you guys think. If you like this, I'll keep doing it. If not, I'll just go back to the basement, whatever works. Either way, welcome back to 10 Years Later, the series where I talk about albums from the 2010s that were either impactful to me, impactful to music in general, very popular, or just worth revisiting 10 years later for good or bad reasons. And this is gonna be a big one. Probably one of the biggest that I'll talk about on this series. As you can tell from the title, the album that we'll be talking about today is the 2011 Adele record 21. Adele, you guys know by now, is an English singer-songwriter who to this day is one of the highest selling music artists of all time. She first started making noise back in 2008 with her debut album 19, which went 8 times platinum in the UK and 3 times platinum here, and had her first big hit single in Chasing Pavements. When this album came around though, Adele skyrocketed on the charts. The album peaked at #1 on seemingly every meaningful chart in the world, went 17 times platinum in the UK and 14 times platinum here in the US, thus reaching diamond certification, reached #1 on the year-end Billboard 200 2 years in a row, and was #1 on the decade-end Billboard 200 list. If that's not enough, it's currently at #1 on the All-Time Billboard 200 chart, and with over 31 million copies sold worldwide, it's currently the best-selling album of the 21st century, and one of the best-selling albums of all time. In an era that seems like it's more dominated by streaming and less by physical sales, there's something to be said for that level of success. And that's not even getting into the singles. All of Rolling in the Deep, Someone Like You, and Set Fire to the Rain reached #1 on the Hot 100, going 8 times, 5 times, and 4 times platinum respectively. And rumor has it, despite peaking a bit lower at #16, still went 2 times platinum on the chart. Adele's music has been transcendent, and this album more than proves that. To be honest though, growing up, I wasn't all that into Adele's music for some reason. There was no rhyme or reason for it, I just couldn't get into it. That's why I was interested in revisiting the album, to see if it would grab me any more than it did before. The standard edition was the only one on Spotify, and it was 11 tracks in 48 minutes, which feels a tiny bit beefy for a pop album, but still not too bad. And after listening to it, I can't believe there was a time where I didn't enjoy this. There were a lot of singles on this album that upon re-listening to them, I couldn't believe I didn't fall for back in the day. Tracks like Rolling in the Deep and Rumor Has It, I remember not really caring much for in my younger years. It was in going back to them for this video that I realized just how solid those tracks are. Built on stellar choruses, pumping soulful pop instrumentals, and stunning vocalizations from Adele, and even some choirs, these singles carry a timeless feel to them that makes them wonderful listens to this day. Set Fire to the Rain was one of the singles I did enjoy back in the day. It's built on a lot of the same vibes of those other tracks, but I always thought this song was so immediate and catchy, and had one of my personal favorite choruses that Adele's laid down on a song. Adele also shows a great deal of versatility on this record. Don't You Remember, for example, starts off as a delicate, plucky acoustic ballad before building into something with more of a soft rock feel. What sets it apart is Adele's stunning vocals. Beyond being generally powerful, her natural vibratos mesh perfectly on the song, making it one of the record's most beautiful cuts. Another huge highlight is He Won't Go, which actually has this jazzy feel with some grand pianos and an excellent bass groove. The song is very twisty, and it's one of the most excellent showcases of Adele's versatility on the entire record. Adele also really plays up the groovy feel on I'll Be Waiting, which is far and away one of the most cheery and upbeat tracks on the album. It's another stellar song though, with this bright bursting piano groove that feels like a bit of a throwback. It's pleasantly old school with a cheerful vibe that eschews a lot of the heartbreak and pain that the album goes through. And near the end of the album, Adele hits us with Love Song, a cover of the excellent classic track by The Cure that's done in a lighter way with a bit of a bossa nova feel to it. It's really hard to top that track, and I don't know if Adele quite makes it, but honestly she doesn't really have to, and her cover still sounds great. It's a bit more moody and relaxed than the original version, and Adele's vocals are very strong. It's nice to see her add her own twist to the song and give it a more mellow, emotional sound. Speaking of emotions, there are a lot of emotional tracks on the record. Turning Tables is a piano ballad that deals in the album's central theme of heartbreak. Adele's vocals mesh seamlessly with the beautiful pianos to make this another track that can appeal to anyone. It's plain to see why her music carries that timeless air to it. Take It All is another piano ballad with some blues influence to it. Much like many of the other tracks here, this one ponders the difficult end of a relationship, and Adele's vocals are enough to bring a tear to your eye. Same thing goes for a track like One and Only, though this one lyrically feels a bit happier than the other ballads, with Adele crooning about a crush that she wishes could be with her. Honestly, I'm surprised this track didn't see the single treatment, because it's definitely a stunner, and I think it's another timeless ballad. I honestly can see this being a popular wedding song. It fits that vibe so perfectly, and the romantic feel of it is exemplary. Speaking of ballads that did become singles though, Someone Like You was always a track that I didn't give enough attention to, and Honestly, I made more than a few jokes about it when I was younger. Whenever I heard it on the radio, I would pretend to cry while listening to it as an in-joke with my family, and thus I mostly associated the song with that. I didn't appreciate that it was the first pure piano ballad to hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and even re-listening to it, that in-joke still haunts me and I do think about it when listening, but now I can see why the song is so loved. Beyond the generally heartbreaking feel of it, Adele sells it beautifully with her very broken vocals, making this feel like a bit of a gut puncher. It's stunningly human, and Adele's emotions are so palpable in the track, to the point where it's easy to see why it's considered a modern classic pop song. I've used the word timeless a good bit in this video, and this is another example of a song that perfectly exemplifies that phrase. Overall, I can't believe I ignored Adele's music for so long because I really enjoyed this album. I can definitely see its impact and why it's had such a lasting legacy, because it's one of those records that has something for everyone. I feel like with this album, Adele tapped into something so raw and real that almost everyone could relate to it. If you were an adult nostalgic for an older sound, you could listen to this album. If you were a pop listener that was tired of electronic sounds and synths, you could listen to this record. If you were a teen dealing with your first heartbreak, you could listen to this record. Or if you were just in the market for a beautiful bluesy album that was raw, unapologetic, and very human, you could listen to this record. Adele was going for something very different than what the pop landscape was going for at the time, and her excellent vocal presence helped turn this album into a winner. There's not a moment on this album that feels dated or stuck in yesteryear. Everything about it carries a timelessness that's more than helped it outlast in the past decade. It's sure to continue to outlast for many decades to come because it's a stellar pop record. Back in 2011, I honestly wasn't all that crazy about Adele. It wasn't anything against her, but something about her music just wasn't hooking me in. Listening to it now, I can't believe I didn't give this record the love it deserved back in 2011 because it's pretty fantastic. If I had to put it on my scale, this album would definitely get an excellent from me. I can see how it's continued to do well to this day. It's aged marvelously, and it's probably one of the better pop albums of the last decade. Check it out if you haven't already. But that's just my opinion on this album. What did you guys think about it? I'm sure many of you have already heard it because it's one of the biggest albums ever, but did you listen to it back in 2011? Did it take you until now to listen to it? Did you love it back then? Do you still love it now? Were you in the camp that didn't like it back then? Do you still not like it now? Are you just completely indifferent towards Adele? Let me know your thoughts and feelings. Leave them down in the comments below. Let's keep this civil and have some fun as we like to do. If you guys want to hit like and subscribe, thank you. If not, it's no big deal. I totally understand. And if you guys want to support my passion for content creation by subscribing to my OnlyFans, where I create exclusive music review and poetry content for $4.99 a month, the link to that is in the description as well. Again, it's no big deal if you can't or don't want to. I totally understand, and I appreciate anyone who is able to. And continuing on in 10 years later, the next record that I'm going to be talking about is James Blake's self-titled 2011 album. That record originally came out in February of 2011, but I may talk about it a little bit earlier, simply because it's the only February album that I plan to talk about, and I plan to talk about a lot of March albums. So I might get James Blake's album out of the way earlier so that I could talk about the March albums and not have to crunch myself during the month of March. I might even spend February talking about a lot of those albums just so I'm not doing too many at once. So stay tuned for that, but until next time, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.